Hi, everybody, and thank you for joining Exergy Energy for our, I think it's seventh of our 8 webinar series on how to be green, resilient, and how to save money, a do-it-yourself class, essentially. Couple of housekeeping rules before we get started. Please use the chat box to send us questions. We love questions. Please send us questions throughout. Don't wait till the end, but use the chat box. Don't use the Q&A box. We don't monitor that, so the chat box, please. We will be recording this webinar, so therefore you have been muted. So you got to use the chat box if you want to get to us, but thank you very much. So let's get started. I want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. We want to thank Cummins, the top quality backup generator manufacturer in the world, Pencat Corporation. We've had a long relationship. If you need quality and critical power, Pencat are the people to talk, definitely the people to call. I want to thank Hitachi, especially Hitachi Capital, for their support and support of our customers. They provide a lot of financing and a fantastic group. RPG Energy Group is a developer we've worked with for a long time and just great people. So if you're looking for solar and things, RPG is a great group to turn to. And then lastly, Energy Storage Development Partners. They are probably the best battery people in the marketplace. So I want to, again, just a quick shout out to them. Thanks so much for your support. So just a quick introduction to Exergy and sort of what do we do, right? So if you're interested in being green, resilient, and saving money, we can do it for you. It's simple, easy, and painless. We're basically a one-stop shop marketplace, kind of like Amazon in a sense, for municipalities and business that want to be green, resilient, and save money. Now, this webinar series has been dedicated to do it yourself. What we have been sharing is how does Exergy do what we do? How do we make people 100% green, 100% resilient, and still save them 10 to 15% on their energy spend for those people that would like to do it themselves? Now, reality is you do better with us and it'll be cost less. Today's webinar is a little different, or a lot different, maybe. We're not talking about how we do something. We're really going to today talk about why we do what we do and why you should do it as well. So I always like to start off these webinars with sort of an overriding concept. And I had to pull this out of my memory from a CEO that I used to work for when I was vice president of research and product development. His name was John Lehman, and he said, you can't save your way to success. And I thought that was actually a fantastic insight. You can save money on your business, your profits will improve, obviously, but will you grow? Will you be successful if your focus is on costs rather than on growth? So this is really what we're going to talk about today, is where should we focus our thinking when we talk about energy, when we talk about energy efficiency? Should we be looking at it potentially in a slightly different way? Now, before I get inundated and my mailbox overflowing with all sorts of nasty grams about, I'm dissing efficiency, that's not the case. Efficiency is good, but it's got to be looked at more broadly. And I took this quote, or actually definition from Investopedia. Efficiency signifies a peak level of performance that uses the least amount of inputs, important inputs, plural, to achieve the highest amount of output. It's a measurable concept that can be determined using the ratio of useful output to total input. It minimizes the waste of, and it's a variety of resources. Now, I do have to own up, the capital in bold, capital red letters, I added to their quote, so I guess I'm probably breaking the law there somewhat. But the key here is that efficiency should not be viewed so narrowly. There's always trade-offs. It's always about doing the right mix of inputs to get the biggest output. Efficiency has to be looked at from a goal perspective, an end perspective, not essentially a navel-gazing one. It's like, sure, more efficiency is better than less efficiency. But the reality is you can't do increase efficiency in everything. It's about where do you focus, what do you leverage, and how do you get the biggest bang on your buck. Now, the reason we put this webinar together is it's kind of a prejudice here. I think that energy has been getting a bad rap, okay? So I said it's demon energy, and everybody, somebody says, well, what's your energy spend? Or what is, how, you're an energy intensive. It's now become almost like a negative. Hey, energy is not bad. Energy is the core of productivity and economic growth. We need to find more ways to use energy to grow and improve our business. Energy's had a bad reputation, not because of what it is, but by how do we generate it with all of the climate destroying fossil fuels. But we're in a transition, and if you're adopting the Exergy model, either do it yourself or with us, and you're 100% green, you've got to cast off the demon energy. You got to cast off this idea that energy is bad. It is not. Energy is important, it's good, and we need to rethink how we position energy in our business and even in our marketing and our minds when it's green, renewable, clean, low cost, and resilient. So let's stop demonizing energy. But let's look at the past a little bit. How did we get here? How did energy investing get so almost politically charged? And I sort of went back and I looked at it and I said, you know what? In 1973, we had the oil embargo. Then we had the Gulf War. Then we had 9/11. Then we invaded Iraq, all those things. What was the message? What was the underlying strong force behind energy efficiency? Was we have to reduce or eliminate our dependence on, at that time, was foreign oil, even though oil had very little contribution to sort of the electricity sector. But it was all about, in a sense, patriotism. It wasn't just a financial investment, but it was essentially a patriotic one where we were reducing our dependency on foreign energy, and in doing that was going to help our economy. And then, golly gee, what happens? We become the world's exporter of energy. We've got, unconventional natural gas coming in the early 2000s or so. And all of a sudden, energy investing is less about security, and now it's more about climate. So we started out in like 2007, the IPCC wins the Nobel Prize, we got the Paris Climate Agreement, and all those things were important. So it went from, you've got to improve your energy efficiency, not because of dominance of foreign energy, but now it's because we got to save the planet. Totally agree, everybody, totally agree. We have got to get to a zero carbon generation future, right? We're going to save this planet and everything else, absolutely. My point here is we're way on our way there, and with the Exergy model, you can be there today, 100% green, 100% resilient, and still save money. So how should we look at energy in the if you, as an Exergy model adopter, when you get to zero carbon? So always remember, energy is a multiplier. Humans are driven to find ways to amplify their own force, to get stronger, to move things faster. This has meant an increase in consumption and a never-ending search for new energy sources. Now, that results in a greatly expanded capabilities and lasting implications for the world around us. But the reality is, without energy, we can do almost nothing. We can only harvest what we can plant by hand. We can only lift what we can carry. We can only think as much as we have the calories to do it and the amount of time to do it. Computers are basically energy that's used to leverage the human mental ability. Energy is a multiplier. It is not a bad thing. It is a great thing. We got to learn how to use more of it, provided, and again, provided we're in a zero carbon environment, and that's where this do it yourself is really taking us. So energy is the concept. It's the engine of economic growth for any society or country. It provides the basis for socioeconomic development. Its energy access is critical enabler. So again, energy is not a demon. Energy is a resource. Let's take away the externalities, the fossil fuel pollution, the greenhouse gases, the destruction of our environment from mining and drilling and everything else. And then we can look at energy as the value that it really is. Energy is the enabler, the power behind growth and productivity. We need to think about how you can use more energy to grow your business rather than we should be focusing on using less energy. If you're using less energy, you're not thinking about growing your business, you're thinking about saving money. But if you essentially eliminated the externalities, the greenhouse gas emissions and all that, you're 100% green. Is it a really good investment for you to consider more energy efficiency? Or how do you leverage your competitive position of being a zero carbon producer to generate more growth? Now, again, my inbox is probably going to overflow. I'm going to be called, a heretic, a nutcase, and everything else. But I'm not alone. As I say, great minds think alike. I have just a couple of examples. Here is a seminar from the Chamber of Commerce, relatively recently, just last year, Energized Economy, Advancing Energy-Enabled Growth, specifically talking about the role of energy in being able to, increase the growth of businesses. Great minds think alike. Deloitte Insights, Navigating the Energy Transition from Disruption to Growth. The focus of these webinars, this do-it-yourself or the Exergy model, is let's get through the disruption. That's easy. We're telling you exactly how to get there so that you're 100% green. Now you focus on growth. All right. So how big a play is energy? Now, these are just a smattering of industrial or manufacturing company, essentially segments out there. Energy is not a major cost for most companies. It happens to be the most important cost they have, but it's not the largest cost that they have, not even close. On average, US manufacturing uses of their cost of goods sold, less than 5% of it relates to energy. Now, you're going to pick some, specific examples like oil refinery, super intense on energy, steel mills, cement. Sure, that's it. But if you average it by industry segment, it's less than 5%. So the idea here from a scoping perspective is if your average energy percent of your manufacturing cost is less than 5%, and you assume your energy efficiency investing is going to save you another 10%, you're going to save 10% of that. So you're saving 10% of 5%, so your cost of goods sold would decline by 0.5%. Now, maybe that's really, really important for you. I don't know. If you take it into account of average profit margins in US manufacturing, the profit increase will be less than 1%. Now, totally agree. If that's what you want to do and you want to focus on that, I'm just trying to put it into the scale and context and ask the following question. Is there a better way to use energy? And I'm going to say it in a slightly different way. Is there a better way to use our focus on energy in a way that contributes more to the organization than just investing in its reduction via cost? So that really comes up to this question of growth versus margin. And I found this, and the link is on the slide, and I highly recommend you read it. Measuring the relative value of growth. And sort of, I will read it, but to just boil it down. The market and shareholders reward growth much more than they reward cost savings. So this metric expresses the value of an extra percentage point of growth as a multiple of the value of a percentage point increase in the operating profit margin. The higher the multiple, the more valuable is the company. So in some cases, a multiple of 6 means you would generate 6 times more shareholder value from adding 1% to your growth than from boosting your operating margin by 1%. Well, that's pretty significant. And again, as we step back and say, efficiency has got to be goal-oriented. What is it that we're trying to achieve? And for Exergy, for our customers, we're trying to achieve success. We're trying to achieve growth, which means we want to focus on the top line more so than the bottom line. So from an investment focus perspective, the relative value growth is real easy. Now, I recommend you go to the article to see how they actually calculated it. It's a little bit of work, and you have to get into capital asset pricing models and things like that. So bring your CFA to do it. But it's the stock price increase from top line growth divided by the stock price increase from cost reductions. In the United States, the market rewards growth 3 to 4 times more than the margin improvement. 3 to 4 times more. Does tell us where management might want to be focusing. But I've had to make an adjustment to this because, and I call it the relative value of green growth. So the relative value of growth looks at stock price increase from growth, but it doesn't take into account the market is also rewarding sustainable companies. They're getting a premium over their non-sustainable competitors. So if you have 2 companies and one is green and sustainable, and another company that is not, and they have the same growth, they got the same profit margin, same market industry and everything else, the stock price of the green sustainable company will be greater. You are rewarded for being green and sustainable. So we got to get that message out. Now again, my nuts? Yeah, probably, but you can't hide it. Here's an article from the Harvard Business Review. And again, links and things are in the notes. How to tie executive compensation to sustainability. So boards of directors are standing back and they're saying, look, we've got to reflect what the market wants, what the customers want, what shareholders want, and they want sustainability. Now, have we seen specific things tied, compensation things tied to sustainability? Yeah, we have in some. The SEC received 133 requests for proxies on tying executive compensation to sustainability. But the reality is that executives already are. Their compensation already is tied to sustainability in a little bit of an indirect way. But as we said, companies that are green and sustainable, the market rewards them more than the non-sustainable, non-green companies of similar performance. And since most of executive compensation is based on stock performance, executives today are highly motivated and incentivized for sustainability and be green. So the idea here is, how do we use energy? And I'm going to be very specific here. How do we use green, resilient energy, that zero carbon footprint energy that you get from being an Exergy customer, that you get from doing the Exergy model, even if you're doing it, do it yourself. You don't have that baggage, the demon energy baggage that you're dragging around, all those negative externalities. No, you're clean, you're green, you're sustainable, you're what the market wants. So how do you use this model strategically? Number one, tell your shareholders, okay? Shareholders will reward you with higher value. But one thing we've got to remember, and if I've got CEOs and executives in the audience out there, remember, every person in a company is a salesperson. Every touch an employee makes, whether it's person on the line pushing a button, or it could be, the CEO, everybody's a salesperson. As soon as you touch another individual outside the organization, you're selling because you're representing that company. So shareholders are great customers for the message of green, resilient, sustainable performance. They'll recommend your company to others. Analysts will, publicize the company, driving additional business. People, nothing, they always say is, nothing succeeds like success, right? The more successful you are at being green and sustainable, the more people will and business will gravitate toward you. Tell your shareholders, tell your customers. Customers are always looking to reaffirm their vendor choices. Give them more to feel good about, and they'll increase their business with you. But just by the human nature, they want to feel good about what they've done. They want to communicate to others that they made a great decision by doing business with you, a green, sustainable organization, and they will recommend you to others as well. Ask them for referrals. Customers also have customers that are concerned about climate change. Your customer is going to use your green accomplishments to improve their position with their customers. Let's look at some of the major people out there, like Walmart. I think Apple's doing the same thing right now. They're pushing into their supply chain and are demanding their supply chain become more green and more sustainable, but they reward them with better prices, better shelf space, everything else. So tell your customers, tell your employees. Employees commit to companies that share their values. Employees can be some of the best salespeople of the company. Absolutely. Remember, it's your employees that touch the real world. When a customer calls in, maybe they're just getting the receptionist, but that receptionist is the first impression of your company to that customer. And if that employee is motivated, is literally committed to the same mission, it will come across. And people like to do business with success. Motivated and committed employees provide better service and better relationships. Tell the press, a company can never get enough good press. Climate change is a major story, and consumers are rewarding companies with green and sustainable products. We just recently looked at a report that was done by a university, can't remember it off the top of my head, looking at the relative growth rates of these happen to be food and consumer items, those that were explicitly marketed as green and sustainable grew 15 times more than the others. And again, if you're interested, we'll send you the report. M&A, this is probably coming from way outside, mergers and acquisitions. Your increased stock price and market power makes it easier for you to grow and expand through mergers and acquisition. In addition, the merger and acquisition is more likely to be viewed positively because they see you and your sustainable, forward-thinking company as a force to make the acquired company even better, that you're going to impute or impart your mission, your vision, and your commitment. Automation. This is strictly just energy. Is to scale a business, to grow it as quickly as possible, you need to be able to automate a lot of your processes. Now, we do that today with lots of different kinds of automation. And as I mentioned, computers are basically just energy machines. They just process things differently, but it's basically just an energy machine. In order to grow as rapidly as possible, you need something that scales. If you're dominated by headcount, I'm not saying you get rid of people, I'm saying is what you want to do is invest in your people, invest in making them more productive. by providing them with the tools and the automation so that they can continuously increase the amount of value that they create for the investment. That takes energy. It takes other investment. Obviously, you got capital equipment and things like that and automation, but it's only made possible by energy. And the key here is we're doing it with green, zero carbon energy. Speed. A company can move faster, wins more deals, has higher profit. How can you use energy, again, clean, green, zero carbon energy, to improve the velocity of your business? Close deals faster, sell product and get it out the door faster, et cetera, et cetera. And lastly, and this is kind of a little bit of a, going to ego, become the poster child. And I don't mean in any pejorative way, but other companies and executives will look to you as an example. Show them your success. Show them that you're leading the industry, that you're forward thinking, that you're going from that disruption to growth, and they will reach out. It will help you to build great networks, as well as it will help you to drive yet additional business. So using the Exergy model, the 100% green, 100% resilient, always on, always green, and always less expensive model, you can build your top line very effectively. And again, what our focus here is, how do we make you more successful? So to put it at the end, in the end, competitive power. Always green, always on, always lower cost will always make you more competitive. So I know this is a little bit of a different one. A lot of, I'm going to say, a lot of preaching about philosophy and things like that. But the idea is that we really, truly do need to rethink energy when energy does not have negative externalities. I am concerned that energy has gotten a bad rap. It isn't. Energy is wonderful. It is the only thing, and I mean this with all great sincerity, productivity and the increase in the standard of living of all people on this planet is directly tied to energy. Whether the planet survives us depends upon how we generate that energy. And what we're asking you to do, of course, is to step up, become 100% green, 100% resilient, save money, save the planet, but enjoy the success of growing your business. Thank you. Dave, we got some questions out there.
Sure, we've got a couple here. One of them might be tough to answer, but the question was, how much energy is used by the U.S. as compared with other countries in percentage?
One, it's not an answerable question since there's so many countries out there, and I couldn't remember all of them. But in general, the United States, the real measure is not how much does the United States use relative to everybody else. The real question is, what is it per capita? So how much more energy do we use per person than everybody else? In general, we are about 4 times the average in the world. Now, the problem with that is that we're 4 times the average. We're also therefore 4 times the polluter. So what we're asking everybody here to do is stop the pollution, don't stop the energy, because that is how we gain a competitive advantage. So be green, be zero carbon, but don't focus on reducing essentially your energy budget. I hope that answered somebody's question.
The follow-up question from the same person was, how much will the U.S. use in transportation? And I'm guessing that the person is getting to the question of how much are we using in transportation now before electric vehicles as opposed to as electric vehicles become more adopted?
So there's 2 pieces to that one. One, I don't know off the top of my head. I do know that currently the transportation sector of the U.S. economy emits more greenhouse gases than any other sector. So the electric power sector is not the largest greenhouse gas emitter anymore. It's actually automobiles, trucks, airplanes, that type of thing. So that's an area that has to be addressed. Now, I'm a huge proponent, and we very much believe electric vehicles are the way to go. We're not going to replace every fossil fuel thing. It just, batteries just don't have the energy density. I don't know when we'll get to, electric aircraft, though there's some up there flying. But the important thing from a zero carbon, from you as a business perspective, is electric vehicles can actually help you be more green and more resilient. Think about think about your employees. And your employees have to drive to work. They got to drive home from work. Where are they going to, what does their car do? The cars are like the worst possible capital investment, right? I mean, it sits idle 96% of the time. Your employees drive to work, the car sits there, 90, and it's unused from whatever it is, 8 to 5 or something. If it was an electric car and they came to your facility and they plugged it in, they could add their battery power to essentially your operation and actually reduce your costs by improving, peak demand, by being able to, if you're doing self-generation, by helping to load balance or generation balance and things like that. We believe that vehicles, as they become electric, that they're going to change the whole ownership model. And it's more likely at some point in time that a business may supply electric vehicles to their employees as a perk because those vehicles are very valuable to them when they're in the parking lot. So actually we had on our website, there's a short article we wrote on electric vehicles in just this context. So I recommend that you go there. If you drop us an email, we'll send you the link in the paper.
And that's it for the questions on this end.
Well, everybody, thank you so much. I think, Dave, am I right? Was this the 7th of our 8?
Correct.
Okay. So this is just a request out there. We've really enjoyed hosting these. We've had a great attendance. We've had fantastic questions, lots of good follow-up. If you've enjoyed them and you would like to learn more or have anything that you might in fact be interested in, just send it to us. You can send it to in the chat box. You go to our website, leave us a note or something like that. We're happy to share our knowledge. We're happy to share our opinions, whatever it takes to help get both the world, the country, and your business on the best path forward. So to sort of wrap things up, always green, always on, always less expensive, and that will always make you more competitive. I hope you've enjoyed today, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks, and the webinar will now disconnect.